Every F1 team betrayal explained. Trust, broken. A promise on the pit wall, a whisper on the radio. There's a sound in Formula One that microphones rarely catch. It isn't the downshift bark or the squeal of a hot rear tire. It's a quiet pause on a team radio, the half beat of hesitation before someone says what they really mean. One word, and a teammate steps aside. One email, and a contract turns to smoke. One misjudged corner, and a qualifying lap becomes a yellow flag that changes a season. Stay with me, because at the end, I'll give you the simple framework that predicts almost every so-called betrayal in F1 before it happens. What counts as betrayal in F1? In a sport built on partnerships, betrayal is the moment the partnership stops working for one side. It can be industrial, secrets changing hands, designs copied, systems misused. It can be political, contracts signed in rooms with nicer coffee. It can be emotional, team orders ignored or obeyed with a sigh that echoes through the grandstands. And sometimes it's tactical theater, gamesmanship that's legal but leaves a bruise. I see betrayal not as cartoon villainy, but as what happens when pressure overwhelms trust and incentives push people to act now and apologize later. That's the honest version of F1, relentless speed wrapped around fragile relationships. Spygate. When secrets left the building, roll back to the late 2000s when the title fight was as much courtroom as curb. One team's technical soul turned up where it should not have been, and the punishment was historic. Constructors' points vanished. The fine set a benchmark the sport still talks about in hushed tones. Yet the core lesson wasn't just the number on a check. It was the way the paddock changed overnight. Compliance suddenly mattered as much as corner speed. Engineers learned that an innocent conversation could be career-ending. Fans call it betrayal because it pierced the illusion that rivalries end when the garage doors close. My take: the severity of that penalty redrew the red lines and probably saved us from a far murkier arms race. Crashgate, when trust hit the wall. Singapore at night is a postcard until it isn't. One decision in a team debrief turned a street circuit into an ethics seminar. A deliberate crash to trigger a safety car? Think about what that asks of a driver, a strategist, and the sport's promise to keep danger on a leash. Sanctions followed, careers were rerouted, and the reputational damage was nuclear. What lingers for me is the betrayal of the silent contract between the sport and the audience. We understand risk, we don't accept manipulation that risks people to rig an outcome. If Spygate was about intellectual trust, this was about moral trust, much harder to rebuild. Multi-21, disobedience with a memory. A modern classic of insubordination arrived in Malaysia when a world champion chose the throttle over the pit wall. The order was simple: hold station. The response was simpler: overtake now, apologize later. The overtake stuck, the relationship didn't. What fascinates me isn't the pass, it's the aftermath. Lawyers got mentioned, apologies were offered, parsed, withdrawn, and reinterpreted by 100 million fans. The betrayal here wasn't just of a teammate, it was a stress test of a dynasty. You can dominate a season, but you can't dominate human nature forever. In the end, the team lived with the scar because the scoreboard made a compelling argument for forgiveness. The contract betrayal: when the pen moves faster than the pit crew. The most expensive betrayals in F1 don't happen at 200 miles an hour. They happen at noon in a lawyer's office. A champion surprised his team by signing where no one expected. A junior driver announced on social media he would not race for the program that nourished him. A tribunal sided with the hard paper on one desk over the soft promises on another. If you want my unsentimental take, the driver market is a stock market with helmets. Loyalty is a marketing word until the buyout clears. I don't blame drivers who bet on a faster car or a longer contract. Careers are short and seats are scarce. But when a factory backs your entire climb and you leave them reading a press release, don't be shocked when fans call it betrayal. From the team side, if you're grooming prodigies, lock the paperwork before you hand them the keys. Refusing the swap, reciprocity on trial. Team orders are one thing, team expectations are another. Late in a season not long ago, a champion was asked to give back a place to help his teammates' championship position. He declined. The world caught fire, the quotes went nuclear, And a different kind of betrayal narrative took over: reciprocity. Had the teammate done enough earlier in the year to earn that favor? Was there a debt from a different weekend? The answer depends on which garage you're in. My read: reciprocity only works when it's explicit, not implied. If you want cooperation in November, write the IOUs in May and cash them in with clarity. Otherwise, you're gambling emotional currency you don't actually own. Why betrayals explode in the social era? In the V10 age, a driver snub or a prickly debrief could live and die inside a motorhome. Now, one radio clip can detonate across the world in minutes. Teams know this, which is why modern betrayals come with faster, colder language. Statements land before feelings do. That's good crisis management and terrible for romance. Fans aren't naive. They understand contracts and pressure. What they crave is honesty. If a driver moved for a better deal, say it. If a team gave an order because the championship needed it, own it. Betrayal stings less when no one tries to gaslight an audience that watched it live. Safety, integrity, and the line that must not be crossed. Not all betrayals are equal. Industrial secrets and contract games bruise egos and balance sheets. Deliberate on-track manipulation shreds something sacred. When a team action endangers competitors or marshals, we're beyond rivalry. The sport must swing hard because the audience's trust is the only currency that matters more than lap time. I believe the harshest punishments in F1 history weren't about revenge. They were about reassuring millions that the risk we've all agreed to witness is meant to be noble risk. When the spectacle feels rigged, people leave. When it feels righteous, they stay forever. My take: why betrayal is inevitable and weirdly useful. I don't root for betrayals, but I accept them as stress tests. They reveal which organizations can hold their shape when fame, money, and risk pull them apart. The teams that turn a rupture into renewal are the ones that do two things well. They tell the truth quickly inside the room, and they design structures that don't depend on any one person behaving like a saint. Championships are won by fast cars and faster learning. The lesson history keeps shouting is simple: build systems that survive human nature. The anatomy of a silly season flip: clauses, options, exit doors. The driver market loves polite words like option and flexibility. Translated, they mean this: both sides want an escape hatch if performance or politics sours. A so-called multi-year deal might be 2 years firm plus one at the team's choice, or the driver's, or a performance trigger that activates if the car reaches a set championship position. That's why you sometimes see a smiling photo and then, weeks later, a very different seat plan. The betrayal fans feel is often just the paperwork doing its job. My advice, if you're reading tea leaves: when a team principal starts emphasizing how much they value the academy pipeline in the same breath as praising a veteran, somebody's lawyer is warming up. How PR turns a fracture into a narrative. Modern F1 is exquisitely good at crisis language. You'll hear about mutual decisions, fresh challenges, and exciting chapters. That's code for a rupture managed by professionals. Good PR protects people from saying things they'll regret. Great PR tells enough truth that the audience doesn't feel played. The only line I wish everyone would retire is, "We're a family." Families don't negotiate termination clauses with 12-page NDAs. Teams do. And that's fine. Just call it what it is: a high-performance company under medieval pressure. You can sense when respect has slipped a tooth by watching the 30 seconds after a race. Some pairs sit down like co-founders after a board meeting. Others avoid eye contact as if eye contact had lawyers. A season can survive one flashpoint. It cannot survive contempt. That's why internal betrayals matter more than external ones. Lose a sponsor, you find another. Lose the locker room, you bleed points every Sunday. Fans, forgiveness, and the paddock's short memory. Here's the paradox: the same audience that boos a controversial overtake will cheer that driver's next miracle lap. F1's memory is selective because speed is persuasive. Redemption arcs are everywhere. A driver who defied an order becomes a cult hero at the next team that hands him the keys. A team that crossed a line rebuilds with a new leadership stack, and a car that's simply too fast to hate. I don't think that's hypocrisy. It's the bargain we make with sport. Punish the sin, then admire the recovery. What betrayal isn't. Not every awkward radio call is treason. Not every peculiar qualifying moment is a plot. Sometimes a lockup is just a lockup. Sometimes a strategist picks the wrong lap and then wears it with dignity. The danger in a conspiracy-rich sport is forgetting that pressure also creates honest mistakes. The trick is to keep your skepticism sharp and your cynicism on a short leash. If you assume malice every time, you miss the beauty that keeps us here. The end reveal, the three-part equation that predicts betrayal. Here's the framework I promised. Nearly every betrayal in F1 follows the same rhythm: rising pressure, skewed incentives, and plausible deniability. Pressure makes people choose speed over patience. Skewed incentives make one path worth more today than tomorrow. Plausible deniability lets them sleep. When you see all three aligning, title fights tightening, contract clocks ticking, or a technical directive exposing a loophole, expect a rupture. The names and colors change. The math doesn't. In a sport this unforgiving, trust is a consumable. Spend it wisely because once it's gone, you can't pit for fresh.